Welcome to Global Citizen Life podcast. Today on the show, we have Anne-Marie Christell. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So you are now living in France. So a little bit of a two-part question. Why did you choose France? And then out of all the beautiful cities and towns within France, why did you choose the area that you're in?
So, I'm born and raised in Sweden, uh, but both me and my husband, we hate the cold weather. Can't stand it. And I actually get pain in my joints when it's too cold. So, and Sweden is cold almost all year round. So we got the opportunity to invest some money in a house, and we felt that we now was the time to pack up and really try to start a new life somewhere, because this is something that we've been talking about for over 12 years, and almost, I think we've been dreaming about it for 16 years together. So it was really something that either we do it now or it will never happen. And from the very beginning, we wanted to move to Mallorca, but just before the pandemic and during the pandemic, the prices has, I think, like four
Tripled
times.
almost. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
like, yeah. So for the amount of money we had, we could get a bunch of stones. We couldn't be able to get a house. And our dream was, or my dream actually was, like, I wanted a house. I want to be able to go out in the garden in the morning with my feet in the grass and have a cup of coffee and see nature. That was like my dream, and my husband's dream as well. So he had been in Provence many times. I had never been in. I've only been in Paris, in France, but I've never been in the south of France. So he said, "Well, it sort of have the same vibe as Mallorca. So just let's go there and see what you feel like." And I'm a huge researcher, so I was googling, I was looking at things, finding a lot of information. Um, and I found a lot of expats living in the area that we live in now. So we live in a valley called Lubéron that is famous for their vineyards, and they're famous for their rosé wine and all of those amazing plateaus with lavender fields. That's like in the middle of where we live. And the first time we came over the hill of the mountains. When we came over the and saw the view and felt the vibe, it was just like, this is home. We knew from the moment that we came into the valley that this is where we want to live. Uh, Funny thing is, it's very expensive here. The houses and the prices are uh, really, really expensive. But both of us, like, really knew that this is where we're going to live. And when we actually found our home, we managed to get the price down 1/3 of the price that she was asking,
Wow.
uh, because we said we have cash, we can do this now. And when both me and my husband decide on something, it happens. So now we're here. So it was really intuition and
Mm.
a, a longing for, because both of us are very sensitive how we feel in certain amount environments, and we were searching for the feeling, and we knew when we went up this little road where our home now is, that this is it. and it's been the same feeling since. So
It's fantastic. It's very interesting, I find, and it's been something I've noticed for, well over a decade, but it really is that feeling, as we call it, that gut instinct, that
yeah,
just kind of knowing, and I always say to people, "Follow your gut instinct." It's right the
yeah,
majority of the time, not
yeah,
100%,
no,
but I find when we follow it more often for even, like, the littlest things.
yeah,
Prime example, I was with a friend of mine one time, and we were gonna go hiking, and she said, she's like, "Ah," and I'm like, "What?" She said, "Well, just got this feeling we should stop for gas." She's like, "I've got
mm,
enough gas to get us there and back, no problem, but I don't know, something's just saying I should stop for gas before we go out." And I said, "Then let's stop for gas now before we go. I mean, we're in no rush, it doesn't matter." While we were fueling up with gas, the guy came out and was changing the price, and it was going up 10 cents a liter.
yeah, yeah,
So, and it wouldn't it makes a difference, but not like a huge difference in life or anything like that.
no,
But I've said to her, I said, when we follow those gut instincts, those feelings, those things that we have more and more, we become more in tune to it, and it
yeah,
happens more often, and then we're right more often about it. And it's just and it also comes with, we can do all kinds of research on a place. And,
yeah,
we watch YouTube videos and we
yeah,
read all this and, everything is always great. I mean, of course,
yeah,
there's some videos that are things that I don't like about X
yeah,
location, but just because the person who produced the video loves or dislikes something about the location doesn't mean I'm going to have that energy, feeling,
no,
vibe, or even same experience.
yeah, yeah, and that's so true. And I think our intuition can really lead us into being safe, or into like, I should speak to this person or I should not, I should be in this place or I should not be. And I think it's our own internal guidance system that we've had since we human has been human, that keeps us safe. And I think that it's sad that a lot of people don't dare to listen, and they don't even dare to find out what is it that I really want in life. And I think it's
Right.
so important that we s- take a step back and not just dumb scroll on the internet thinking that this is what I want, but truly feel, and not listen to what a happy life is supposed to be like.
Yeah. I'm trying, and it's difficult because it doesn't always work, but I'm really trying to eliminate the word should in
Yeah,
my life, to say, "I
yeah,
should be doing this. I should have that," or "You should
yeah,
do whatever,"
yeah,
because should is I mean, no, we should do what we feel internally is
yeah,
right for us, and that's a big thing about moving abroad, is a
yeah,
lot of people that I talk with, they're, "Oh, well, this person said this or this person said that,"
yeah,
or, "The world says I should
yeah,
be in my home country, I should do this or I should do that." And I say to people, it's no, for one, I advise people to only take advice from people who are living the life that resonates with them. I don't want to say like
yeah.
I want somebody else's life, but if we
No,
think of I like that lifestyle.
yeah,
And for me, I'm not materialistic. Like, when you see
no,
those Bugattis and Lamborghinis and the whatever, I think that's absolutely ridiculous that people are
yeah,
paying the kind of money for a car that you can get, like, a house for,
yeah,
or
yeah,
and even, like, some of them, I have no idea. Like, it's just ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous. But, if
yeah,
people like that, they strive for
yeah,
that, that's
yeah,
great if it truly does make you happy and feel good, not just
yeah,
for the moment to show off because you
yeah,
have some other things going on internally.
yeah,
But, like, for me, I have friends that, are employees. They're
mm,
fantastic employees. One works for the government, one works for a law firm. It's great. They love their job, and my one friend who works for the law firm, she said to me, one time she said, "I don't understand how you work for yourself." Like, how do you come up with all these ideas? How do you know what
Yeah,
to do? How do you, like you get paid lots one month, maybe not so much the other. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand. Like, how can you live like that? Aren't you always stressed out? And I
yeah,
said, "No, I enjoy it." I said, "I can turn that like, I'm glad that you do what you do." I said, "How come you don't feel like stabbing yourself in the eye with a pencil?
yeah,
You do the
yeah,
same thing every single day." Like,
yeah,
there's some variations with it. But I'm like, I don't understand that. And it's just because we're different people. And
yeah,
so we're best friends and how we live is completely different and we need that. But I talk with her about all kinds of stuff. She's my friend, but when it comes
yeah,
to moving and making decisions and living in different places, we'll chat, but the advice or response that she gives me is not one that I don't wanna say this and sound rude, but not one that I would think of, "Oh, I should do that. I should
yeah,
listen," because we have
yeah,
different lifestyles, right? And
yeah,
even when I give her advice, sometimes when she asks, I'm like, "Well, for me, it's different because lifestyle, but, maybe think about these different things," because I don't wanna tell her what to do because,
no,
we have different lives.
yeah. And I think that is so important that if you want to take a leap of moving abroad or doing something like that, uh, I would only ask questions and advice from people that has already been in the situation where you want to be. Because usually, like our friends, family, they might hold on to the idea that they are going to be left out. So they will
Right.
automatically say, "No, why are you doing this? No, this is not possible," or etc., etc., etc. And me and my husband, we have heard this over and over again for like the past 2 years when we were actually knew we had money to invest and starting to look for places, etc., etc. And I actually didn't let my family know, no, we're going back to France to look at houses because I could feel the worry from them and I didn't want to have that feeling. And I wanted to be in my own bubble together with my husband and like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're focusing on. And a lot of people have had this reaction towards us that, so what will happen with me now that you're leaving? Uh,
Because it's a loss for them.
yeah,
They're losing
yeah,
they feel like they're losing you.
yeah. And like I've said that, so my brother and his wife came to visit us for a whole week now over Christmas. And I mean, spending those days together was more like it's intense and it becomes more real than if we meet up for 2 hours having dinner like once a month. So it
That
becomes,
quality is a lot
yeah,
better. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I find too. It's even though it's less time because I've asked people, how far away does your brother, sister,
yeah,
parents,
yeah,
relative lives? How
yeah,
often do you see them in a year? And when they think about it, a lot of them say, "Well, not much." And I said, "Yes." And then when you come visit or they come visit, it's more quality time, not just sitting on a couch watching TV. You're
no,
doing
yeah,
things together and
yeah,
spending that quality time.
yeah, yeah. And I think
So
that we just have to live life for ourselves and not
mm,
do what everyone else expects us to do.
right. Yeah, I agree, and it is challenging, and of course, there's things to take into consideration
Oh
that
yeah,
that we move and not to be like, "I'm just gonna do what I want because it's what I
no,
want," and do it
yeah,
selfishly. There's many things to take into consideration, and I tell people as we were chatting before we started recording of, "Okay, well, I still wa how often do I wanna go back to my home country?" And I,
yeah,
like you, hate winter. Coming from
yeah,
Canada, I hate it.
mm,
I do
yeah,
the best I can to not go back and visit during those winter
yeah,
months because I don't like it. But then I think, okay, well, if I want to go back, how many times a year?
Yeah.
Does somebody plan to go back to their home country and visit? How far are they willing to travel? How long will they
Yeah.
stay? And those things. So you could make it um, for people that are listening, where you're thinking, okay, I want to be within a 5-hour flight.
Yeah.
And depending upon where you live, that can open the door to several places.
Yeah.
So I've had clients that say, well, I want to be a direct flight. So then it's
Yeah.
okay, well, let's look at the city you live in. Let's look at direct flights and
Yeah.
the distance to look at weather
Yeah.
conditions and things. So
Yeah.
we're not just because we move abroad, we're not cutting people out of our lives, but
No.
we want to do what's good for us, but we can take those things into consideration, be like, well, you can come visit. And then we
Yeah.
have more quality time together. It's a
Yeah.
direct flight. I'm only this far away.
Yeah.
And so there's ways to, be considerate
Yeah.
of the other people, but at the same point, I've said often, if I'm not happy, what kind of friend am I? What kind
Yeah.
of person am I?
Yeah.
I'm either
Yeah.
dragging people down with me
Yeah.
because boo-hoo, I'm not happy and like I'm sad, I'm miserable, or I'm angry. And then what
Yeah.
kind of person wants to be around an angry person, right? So
Yeah.
we always need to make sure that we are happy so we can be good and helpful and useful to those people who are around us and our family and friends and colleagues and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I also hear people say that they talk about, so when I retire, then I will be able to live my life, or I will save money until I can do blah 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 blah. And I'm fortunate that I work online. I teach marketing for hairstylists, and I do also have retreats where we meet up and so on. So I can actually live wherever I want to be. And my husband is a musician, so he travels all the time anyway. So it doesn't really matter if where he jumps on a plane to get off to somewhere. Um, and the only thing we know is that we have our life now. We never know if we live 5 more years or 10 more years or 30 more years, or if, I don't know, the world will explode or like we have no idea. And I think that that was something that I learned through the pandemic, is that all of a sudden everything changed, and we were forced to look at life from another perspective, and that
Mm,
made us really like, okay, we only know that we have this time now. So either we do what we have been dreaming of, but we can't continue just to talk about that we want to do this now when we actually can afford to do it. Like, yeah, we could sit on the money and live off of the what do you call it when you get
the interest
the interest? Yeah,
or the
yeah.
income from it.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm like, that's boring. uh, so
Hmm. And it's true. I mean, and I look at it two ways, kind of unfortunately on one side, but fortunately on the other, because
yeah,
I've had many people in my life pass away. Um, Family members, friends, acquaintances, things like that. And
yeah,
so I know, and I one time I was heading back to Canada and I was doing some work and I met up with a friend and they said, "Oh, did you hear about so and so?" I'm
yeah.
like, "No, what happened?" "Oh, he had a heart attack and he died." And I said,
Hmm.
"No, no, he's retiring
Hmm.
next year. We've talked
Yeah,
about all
yeah,
the plans they have to travel through Europe to do all
yeah.
this stuff. His wife has been
Hmm.
waiting for him to retire to do
Yeah,
this." And he's like,
yeah,
"No, he passed away." And
yeah,
you're right, like we never know. And I say to people and kind of joke about it a little bit, but I'm also serious because behind every joke is some seriousness of I could literally get hit by a bus tomorrow. Now, I don't think a
yeah.
bus is going to take me out, but
No,
I could get hit by a bus tomorrow and die, or hit by a
yeah,
car, or heart attack. I mean,
yeah.
we never know because there is no guarantee. So I don't want people to be destructive and do
No,
things like we need to prepare for the future because I feel in a way I've said since I was a teenager that I was going to live till I'm 120.
yeah.
People then told me I was stupid and dumb
Yeah,
because 70 was the average age. They're like,
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, well, I mean, still 120s, but
Yeah.
I mean, 100 more and more are hitting
Yeah,
100 and
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
So maybe, so, we want to prepare for that, but there's no
Yeah.
guarantee. And at the same point, am I taking care of myself to be healthy? Because at 65, 70, or I mean, some people are still working at that time,
Yeah.
but are you healthy enough to do the things you want to do? I don't want to be
Yeah.
get to like a retirement point and then sit in a rocking chair because my hips are bad, my knees are bad, I
Yeah.
can't walk, I've got breathing
Yeah.
problems, health issues.
Yeah.
Like, I've said to people, I wanna do a lot of things now because if I get older and I start slowing down, I can always find a job or work or something, and
Yeah.
especially, I mean, nowadays with internet and
Yeah. Yeah.
AI and everything, so, A, there's no guarantee life-wise and physical-wise,
Yeah.
right? So, I think we should really be doing the things we want to do,
Yeah.
but that's something that we really need to think about as well as we said earlier, is like, what do you really want?
Yeah.
Like, to sit
Yeah.
in a room by yourself for an hour and just, it was a task that I did actually. I can't remember where I heard about it, and they said, "Sit with a friend, like a good friend that you
Mhm.
trust, and have your friend just ask you, 'What do you want?'" And
Mm.
then, you say it and they write it down, and, "What do
Yeah.
you want?" What do
Yeah.
and that's all they say for at least 30 minutes because the
Yeah.
first things are kind of the big superficial type things,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
really then once you start getting down as time goes more, you really start to get a lot more specific of
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
truly internally want, and then it's making those things happen. It's not gonna happen
Yeah.
overnight,
No,
but
and it's
it's
not going to be
planning.
easy.
It's not going to be
And there
easy.
will be things that will happen along the way that so me and my husband moved about 5 months ago, and there have been moments of panic. There have been moments of like, what mm, did we do?
Mhm. What the F? Yeah.
yeah, and um, every like and what we have noticed is that for everything, every obstacle, there has been this polar opposite of truly amazing neighbors that have been just supporting us, helping us when we had a flood in our kitchen with like poop water. They came, they helped
Oh.
us. Within like minutes, like I will come directly, I will help you, like don't worry. And As I was telling you earlier, this weekend I was alone in the house by myself for the very first time, and my neighbors were like, are you going to be okay? Like, do you have food? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be okay by
You have
myself,
food?
don't worry. They invited me for like the whole village met up for like a small party to like celebrate the new year, and they
Mhm.
brought me, even if I barely only speak a few words of French at this very moment. I'm really trying to learn. I got to be like introduced to all the village people, and they barely don't speak any English, but that's fine anyway because um, I want them to, when they see me in the village or walking around in the woods, because we live just close to a nature reserve, it's just opposite of our house. I want them to know that, oh, okay, she's one of those that actually has moved here, and I'm not just visiting.
Right.
And They have really invited us to become a part of the community, even if we're not that good at French yet, or and we use Google Translate all the time.
Mhm.
My husband even had an evening of drinking beers together with one neighbor that don't speak any English at all, and they were laughing and having super fun together. So uh, I think my biggest recommendation to someone that wants to do something like this is that don't expect it to be amazing all the time. Don't expect you to have this. because when you've had a vision like we have had for a very long time, and all of a sudden you live that, there are moments where you're just going to be in awe over that you're actually living that vision, but you're going to be hit with obstacles, but it's going through those obstacles that you actually grow. And that actually also has a ripple effect on other parts of your life. And change is hard. It is hard to adapting. And one of the things that actually shocked me was, in the beginning, I had not considered how much energy it would take me to go grocery shopping for like the first, second, third time, when you actually have no idea what anything is and you don't know the
Right.
words for everything. Um, and I think it took us 4 hours when we did our first like big grocery shopping, when you have to buy everything new, uh, and
Hmm.
trying to find in the grocery store and do like, so it took us like 2 months before I actually felt comfortable going grocery shopping. And that is something that surprised me because I didn't think it would have such an effect on me, that it would actually, afterwards I was just so tired, I had to rest. Like, I've never
Because
had
you're
that
you're
before.
really well, because what it is too is like you're really thinking and we're using a lot of
Yeah,
brain energy
yeah,
because we're looking at every product, trying to figure it
yeah,
out, look at detail. And
yeah,
some of the simplest things that most people don't think about are
yeah,
going grocery shopping and
yeah,
things. And it's what are these products? And I've
yeah,
done it. I've bought stuff and I brought it home
yeah,
thinking it was something, and it
yeah.
definitely was not what I
No.
thought that I was
No,
buying.
no.
And those are the little things that, yeah, can be very challenging and tiring. And then too, when the first time I moved to Costa Rica, and was going to the grocery store, and I was like, everything was so expensive. 'Cause
Yeah,
it was the main grocery store,
yeah,
um, and there was a lot of tourists there, and
yeah,
I was there because it was the most convenient one, and
yeah,
so after a few months, then it's, "Oh, there's another grocery store here. Oh, there's a
yeah,
market here.
yeah,
Oh, there's,"
yeah,
and those are those
yeah,
learning things
yeah,
as well, and I always say
yeah,
to people, even if you plan your budget, expect to spend more within the
yeah,
first few months because you're
yeah,
still figuring everything out, and
yeah,
sometimes we'll go to a place and just because we know and it's convenient. Like
yeah,
even now that I'm in Montenegro, I know the different grocery stores and which
yeah,
ones kind of have the better prices of stuff. But there's one that's close and sometimes I go and I just like, you know what? I'm just grabbing a few things. I know it's going to
yeah,
cost me more, but it's
yeah,
convenient. But then at least I can make that decision
yeah,
because I've spent the months learning what is where and what some products are called because
yeah,
it's not in English.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's also
and
part of it's part of the fun in a way, like, it is sometimes
yeah,
frustrating, but it's part of the experience, it's part of
yeah,
the journey, and then, then once you know, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was like I was looking for yeast to bake
Mm, mhm.
some kind of bread, and I was looking, going through the store, and I was trying to ask the girl in the counter, but she didn't understand me, so I just gave up. And then I asked my neighbor, and she's like, "Yeah, but it's there or there." And then I was just like, "Oh, okay." I had no idea to look in that department because it was together with the cakes, and that were already finished, made. And I'm like, why would you put it there and not together with the like butter or like you have in Sweden? So you're it I think it's when you actually take a leap and moving like this that you actually understand how much we do on automatic. Like how much we
Yes.
actually, we are like robots, and we know when we go to the same grocery, we go like this, we do that, we do blah 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 blah. And I think also making a big move like shakes up a little bit, and maybe dare to try some new things. So
You know what you said is really right, that we are on autopilot
yeah,
good portion of our life.
yeah,
People, they get up at the same time, they have the same morning
yeah,
routine, whether it's go
yeah,
to the bathroom, brush your teeth, have your coffee, whatever. They drive the same
yeah,
route. And
yeah.
I did that before when I was in Canada, and I was driving, it's like, "Oh, I'm home already." I don't
Mm.
remember passing this part, going
No,
through this intersection,
no,
because we're just on that autopilot. And
yeah,
most people, they go to the grocery stores, they go up and down the same aisles the same
yeah,
way, they buy the same thing, everything.
yeah,
And you're right, it is completely autopilot. So we're not really using our brain.
no,
And so
no,
when we move, then it's like, whoa. And the prime example back with the grocery stores is they put different things together in different
yeah,
sections and
yeah,
different areas. And I've done the same thing. I'm like, why the heck would that be here?
yeah,
That makes no
yeah,
sense. To them, it does, for
yeah,
whatever the reason. And
yeah,
they just do things very different in different
yeah,
countries. And then that brings us back to then the, why do you want to move abroad?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you're expecting things to be the same, you
No,
can't, and you're
no,
not gonna change it, and nor
no,
should we, because I left Canada for many reasons. I don't want Canada in Spain
no,
or Montenegro
no,
or Costa
no,
Rica. Like,
no.
that's why we left, and we
Yeah,
need to adjust. And so that's why the kind of really looking internally, why do you wanna move? What are you
yeah,
looking for? And then what countries work best with that, whether we have to think of the weather, you have to
yeah,
think of the language, you have to think of the
yeah,
religion, you just have to think of
yeah,
how day-to-day works. Like,
yeah,
in Spain, still siesta mid-afternoon, very popular and common in a
yeah,
lot of places. Things are closed on Sundays here.
yeah. Here, the
Um
same here. Like I was
Mhm.
actually surprised there is no grocery stores open on Sundays, and
Mhm.
between 12:30 and 2, everything is closed during the regular days as well. Not during high season in the summer,
Okay.
but now during the winter, it's like, and my brother, he just laughed at me and he's like, "You have actually moved to a place that's worse than where we come from." Uh, and he is such a convenient person that he orders everything online and they just come and knock on his door and they
Okay.
even alcohol and all of that. So he couldn't live here.
Well,
uh,
and that, I mean, and then so that really again comes back to the
yeah,
knowing people. Like here in Montenegro, where I am right now, there's no Amazon delivery, no
no,
Amazon Prime. There's,
no,
you know, there's a couple post offices, but there's not
yeah,
that convenience. And
yeah,
I don't care, because part
no,
of me thinks, if I can't get off my butt and go to the store
yeah,
for
yeah,
whatever I
yeah,
want, I really don't want it that bad. And I don't need to be buying stuff because I
no,
don't really need it. And,
no,
I'd rather have experiences and travel, but that's me. And that again, what's
yeah,
makes everybody different. And so people need to look at what they want.
yeah, 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 and really like question, um, what is it that I really need to survive, and
Hmm.
what is it that I could be without? Because
Yeah.
sometimes, as you said, we just do things on autopilot, and we do things because we are brainwashed by
Mhm.
society and media to do things in a certain way. And um, I know, like, so I've been a hairdresser for 26 years. Like my clients were freaking out now when I actually took the leap to move. But I do have a base of clients that I've had for over 20 years. I go back every 3 months to take care of them because they're like close friends to me. And I make some good money doing that, and it actually pays me to go back visiting the family and friends. So it's a really good win-win situation for me. Uh,
Absolutely.
but they were like, "So what am I going to do when you leave? What am
Hmm.
I like? What will happen to my life?" And I said, like, I have a spare bedroom. You can actually come and visit, and I'll do your hair then,
Right.
you know. So I lost my train of thought there, but I think it's important that we are okay with looking at what can I remove out of my life, um what are things that just makes life nice, but what do I actually need to survive? Uh,
We don't need a lot.
no,
Like,
no,
obviously, we need food, clothing, and shelter, but even
yeah,
with those, like, we don't
yeah,
need massive homes, 10 pairs of
no,
shoes,
no,
2 closets
no,
full, like, we don't
no,
need those things.
no,
We need one thing that's important that especially through the pandemic, and I think people are still struggling a little bit with, and I've been traveling around for well over a decade. One
yeah,
thing that's super important is community.
yeah,
We
yeah,
need community. That's
yeah,
that's a big thing. We can go, for a while without it because we'll have our friends that we can
yeah,
Zoom call and chat with and
yeah,
things like that. But eventually, it really is having community, and as we
yeah,
get older, sometimes we have unexpected health conditions that
yeah, yeah,
arise.
yeah,
Like recently, I had some gallbladder issues and was in the
yeah,
hospital. Well, it was last year, but that's when I was like, "Oh," and even here in Montenegro, I thought, like, if I fell down the stairs and broke my leg,
yeah,
I'm gonna heal, be fine, but then it's like for that first month-ish or couple of weeks, who do I have here that
yeah,
can help me? Like, who can at least go buy me stock up for groceries for
yeah,
a couple weeks till I
yeah,
can maybe hop there with a backpack and buy some stuff? And so those things are really important. Is having that not only for people to help us, but to have a sense of community. When we
yeah,
look at blue zones around the world where there's some of the
yeah,
oldest living people, generally, they have great weather,
yeah,
they have good fresh food,
yeah.
and they
And
have
they grow a
community,
lot of their own, yeah,
and
and they grow a lot of their
yeah,
own food as well. Yeah, because
yeah,
they say
it's
that
yeah,
the being
nutritious.
in the soil and working
Mhm,
with your body
mhm.
actually is also one of the things that makes you become older. So, yeah,
Yeah,
and
and also
going to
too, it's yeah, if you don't have a garden, to take your shoes
yeah,
off and go walk on the sand, the dirt,
yeah,
the
yeah,
grass, and have connection with earth makes a physical difference within our bodies.
yeah, yeah, and I can say I am a highly introverted person. I'm naturally shy, but as long as I dare to actually take myself in situations where I feel uncomfortable, I kind of become more comfortable within myself. And one thing that I noticed now when we actually moved is um, we have started to go to different events for like different art shows, exhibitions, markets, and so on. And we've started to have conversations with people and started to introduce ourselves to people. And they have also helped us, like, yeah, you should talk to this one, or you should talk, like, you have a lot of interests with that. And 2 weeks ago, I got an email from a woman that I met a few weeks ago. She said that we have this um, women's group that meet once a month, and I really think you should be a part of it because we are all entrepreneurs, we are all expats, and we meet up and do things together once a month. And I got the invitation like 12 hours before the actual thing is going to be, and my automatic response was like my whole body like, oh no, I can't prepare, I don't have time for this, I don't know how to drive there by myself, I don't, like, the list was endless of why I shouldn't go there. And my husband, he's like, but Emery, like, you're just now going back into your shell, if you go, like, you don't have to go back if you don't like it, but you will never know. So I decided to push all the fears away. all the freaking out, like, okay, it's not dangerous. Like, just drive the car after GPS by yourself. Don't worry. Um,
Hmm.
and I came there to the event. I think we were 30 women, and everyone was so
Wow.
inviting, and they were so kind and really like, because everyone has been in the situation where
Yes.
they have moved here, they're brand new, and everyone was so kind with like um sharing their experience and sharing, like, maybe this person can help you out with this, or maybe this person can help you out with that. And that is something that I have found in this area anyway, that every, people are very open to helping each other out and building new connections. And that was something I didn't expect. And afterwards, I was so happy that I went, because it meant so much that I know that, okay, I can start to build some connections there. And then we have the French neighbors on two sides of us that are very kind, even if they barely speak English. And we're trying to learn French. Um, it are also inviting. So I think it's, maybe you have to move out of your own comfort zone to start to create those connections, and start to build those relationships. Because if you just sit by yourself in your house or in your garden, you won't have those connections. And it takes a
Right.
little bit of effort to start to build something new like this.
Hmm. And we learn new things. Like, if you want the same old, same old, same old,
Yeah,
stay where you are, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And as you said, you're doing a bunch of different things. So the different
yeah,
kind of festivals and art stuff. And,
yeah.
not everybody's going to be interested in everything, but at
No,
least if you go and try,
yeah,
you're going to meet people, or you might all of a sudden be like, oh, that is a little bit interesting. Like, I'll go
yeah,
to art shows and galleries. I don't, look at the painting and think, oh, they must
yeah,
have been feeling this or that, or,
no, yeah,
anything like that. But I still go and I find things that are interesting and reading a little bit about it
yeah,
and connect with people. And it's just trying those new things for new
yeah,
experiences. And I think because when we do move abroad, most times it is we feel like we are lacking something in life. And so we
yeah,
have to, exactly as you said, get out of our comfort zone,
yeah,
and we have to do things because that's how we're going to grow. And once we do it one, two, three times, it's not so uncomfortable anymore.
no, no,
Right. So, like
no,
next
yeah,
month when you go there, you might still feel a little at first, oh, but okay, it was okay
yeah,
last time.
yeah,
And then by the third, fourth time, you're like, oh,
yeah,
yeah, I'll see so and so and so and so.
yeah, yeah,
And then it becomes comfortable.
yeah, yeah. And I think that it helps you grow in such a way, because when I was 16 years old, I actually went to America by myself to go to high school for a year. I was only 16 years old.
Wow.
I barely could speak English. It took me about 2 months to actually, for people to understand me, because the English we learn in Swedish school is completely different to the American English that people actually speak. um, and I remember being away for a year, and I had grown so much. And when I came back to Sweden, I met up with like some of my friends that I've been, going to kindergarten and all the way through school. And it felt like the, they were like, their life has been on pause, and they were exactly the same people as when I
Yeah.
left. Nothing big had
Yeah.
happened.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was completely changed. So I felt
Right.
like my whole world had been shaken around, because I've been pushed to so much growth that um, I saw life and what is possible for you through a brand new way. comparing to what they believe was possible for them. So I think if you have kids that actually have a dream to go to high school somewhere else, don't be afraid for them. I would tell people to push their kids out and actually do that, because that
Mhm.
can truly make them grow as people. And
Right.
when I did this was the time almost before the internet, or the beginning of the internet. So I it took 1 week to send a letter to my family and back. So I didn't even speak to them on the phone. That was back when, you know.
Right, because those
And now,
collect calls and long
yeah,
distance calls
yeah,
cost a lot.
yeah. And now we
I
can have these
remember.
conversations over the internet. So now it's not that big of a leap, I would say.
But it is such a huge growth because and I say to people too, if you wanna move abroad, for some people I had somebody I was talking to just the other day and said, "I would love to move to France for a couple years."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Then just go for a couple years." If you
yeah,
can go for 1 or 2 years, like, it's
yeah,
still you're gonna grow so much, you're gonna learn so
yeah,
much, you're gonna realize things about yourself.
yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you have to move abroad forever. It doesn't
No,
mean that you're stuck in that one country or city forever. Maybe
no.
you move and you pick a city and it's okay, but it's not quite the right
Yeah,
vibe. Maybe there's a different city because cities are so different in
yeah,
within one
yeah,
country. Or you can, do as I do, and I'm this year going to be looking at my sixth country to
yeah.
move to and live in,
Yeah,
and maybe it'll be forever, maybe not. I don't know.
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see, but each one is very different, and each one I grow and learn, and I still go through those phases of
yeah,
when I moved in here after a couple of months, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe this was a mistake." And then I just said,
yeah,
"No, Sally, stop it. That's
yeah,
part of the process. You
yeah,
do it every single time. We
yeah,
we think those things because
yeah,
there's the challenges and it's hard and we don't
yeah,
know anybody, and then I'm
yeah,
just like, "No, that's part of the growth process, you need to do it." And
yeah,
I only thought it a few times and very
yeah,
short because I know for people the first time, you think it more often, you go through it more because it's the first time. And I
yeah,
know it because I've done it several times. But it is part of the growth, and it doesn't matter how much you read about a place, how many YouTube
no,
videos you watch about a
no,
place, anything, it's nothing is the same as standing in the grocery store buying groceries
yeah,
or standing
yeah,
in that square that's 1,000 years old and you're just
mm-hmm,
like, "Wow, this is amazing." Or
yeah,
you're at the beach on top of the mountain, whatever your place is, there is nothing like it of being there, and living is not being on vacation.
no,
And that's
no,
when people travel, and it gets great to travel,
yeah,
but it's nothing the same. It's not even close.
yeah,
Like, you need to live and be there and go through those challenges, and
yeah,
that's what makes you grow and change as a person, and you'll discover things that you love that you didn't even know you liked.
no,
And you'll
no,
discover things about yourself. It's like, "Why was I doing that?" Or "Why like, I don't even really like to do that."
yeah, yeah. And I think uh one thing that's so Sweden is a very, like, everything is working. Everything is very structured. You can almost do everything over the internet nowadays when it comes to, like, getting your electricity or doing this. And if someone has booked an appointment with you, uh, then they will show up in the period of time. And Swedish people are famous for, like, if you are late if you are 10 minutes early. Like, you always show up on time, blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And I knew France is not going to be this way, but I had no idea that um so much, because everyone has said, yeah, you just sign up on this website to get your electricity. So you do the account, blah 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 blah, you do the steps, and then it will be there. But um after being here for 3 months. We still hadn't got our electricity bill, but we did register on the site and everything. And when we logged on, our account wasn't there. So we tried to call. No one speaks English. The woman on the phone hanged up the
Hung up
phone
on you?
because my husband didn't want. He said a few words in French, really trying, because he has become better at French than me. And one of our neighbors ended up calling for us, and she had a 50-minute phone call answering all the questions that we had put into the website. So
Wow.
we had, and she had to go through that, giving up the IBAN number, everything over and over again for 50 minutes. And she was in shock how backwards that was. That and they already had, she's like, yeah, and I have all this information here, but you have to repeat it. And it was like this, the longest conversation that I've been through. So I what I have learned here is uh, I I respect Sweden to be as efficient, but I still don't
Mhm.
want to live there. Yes, I get annoyed with the in what do you say when things are non-efficient, like I get really annoyed when it doesn't like just work, but
Mhm.
I rather have that and live with this, in this energy that we've been looking for so long, because it's for the first time I actually feel uh really comfortable and safe within myself by just being in this energy,
Right.
and that is worth all the uncomfortableness.
Well, and I often say to people, no matter what is, you always moving abroad will test your patience
Yeah,
and
yeah,
bring you to a new level because at first and it's so ironic because so many people say, "Well, I wanna move because I wanna be more laid back lifestyle, more slower paced," is a
yeah,
common thing that people want,
yeah,
and they think that they can handle it easily because when they're on
yeah,
vacation for a week or
yeah,
2, it's fine that things are slow because
yeah,
they're on vacation,
yeah,
but once you
yeah,
live somewhere and things
yeah,
take longer and don't get done, it does test the patience, but just like everything, after so long, it's normal and you don't even realize that it's
yeah,
slow and
yeah,
the
yeah,
bureaucracy is a bit of a pain in
yeah,
the butt 'cause you're just like, "Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's how it is. I'm just
yeah,
used to it. What's the
yeah,
problem?"
yeah.
So
And it
it's
actually,
amazing we adjust.
yeah. And one thing, what happened to us is it took us 7 weeks to get the internet installed in our house. And I work on
Wow.
the internet, and I couldn't work. I couldn't do my launches. I couldn't get any money in, and I had to run around in the garden looking for the internet, because there's the walls in our house are so thick. It's the house is from the late 1800s, so inside I barely can make a phone call. So I ended up going up to the big village to, because we're in a small hammock outside in nature, to actually be able to respond to my emails. And my husband the other day, he's like, yes, we wanted to live a life where we're more in the present moment, that we are more living life um, one step at a time. And uh, moving here has really pushed us to do that, because every day something new happens, something breaks, or something that actually pushes us to the plan that we had the day before for today is not
Mhm.
change. So it actually, we really get what we wanted. And it's harder than you think to live like that when you are so used to everything working. Um, but uh, I try to just like I cannot force anything. I just have to, okay, if the podcast doesn't come out on Tuesday, then it maybe comes out on Thursday or the week after. Like whatever. You have to live
And,
more
you
in
know,
that.
and it's one of those things too, because I get it because from a business perspective, there are certain things
Yeah.
that we want done. And, you know, like if a
Yeah.
podcast, somebody listens every week, they expect it that
Yeah.
week. And I get that. But on the flip side too, there's always part of me that says, you know, things happen, problems
Yeah.
happen. It's not the
Yeah.
end of the world because I've
No.
done that too. I generally have mine. And just last week, my newsletter, instead of going out on Tuesday, went out on Thursday because I had a
Yeah.
just unexpected stuff that had come up. And part of
Yeah.
me, I was stressing about it, and then I thought, "You know what? Like, really? Is it really gonna matter? No, because the
No.
stressing, the anxiety, the whatever over it, it's still gonna be out that week. Sure, it's on a different day. People will still get it. However
Yeah.
many people who normally read it will read it. Those who never open it won't open it anyway."
Yeah.
So it's things that it
Uh,
does kind of make us step back and say, you know, again, it comes back to the what is really important?
yeah.
How do we really wanna live our lives? And if
Yeah.
somebody needs that every week must be and it could be just because that's the stage they are in life or the I like to call the chapter.
Yeah.
You know, you're in the chapter and you're building and you're starting and you're doing things,
Yeah.
then those are things that you need to consider when you're considering what location or area you want to move to.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
some of us who want that more, we're gonna realize, like, even if you're living in like, I was in Barcelona. It took
Yeah.
weeks for me to get internet hooked up in Barcelona
Yeah.
because they were so busy
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And that was a problem because, like you, I work online, but
Yeah.
thankfully I could go to cafes and
Yeah.
co-working places, so I still had to modify, but there's always gonna be challenges, but it comes down to what do you want, and a little bit then is careful what you wish for,
Yeah.
because
Of course.
you will get what you want, but it may not
Yeah.
be presented to you in the way that you picture
Yeah.
it. I can
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
guarantee it
Yeah.
probably won't be presented
Yeah.
to you in the way you picture it,
Yeah.
but you will get what you want.
Yeah. And I always say either you get the lesson that you need or you get what
Yes,
it is that you want. But
yes,
sometimes, just as you said, we have this idea, but it may be in your real life, it won't be exactly the way that you expect. And now I just joke about there is this past year there is so much that has actually come into life that I've dreamt of and manifested for so many years. Uh, and I'm joking about maybe I should ask for like a bigger sum of money or something like the next thing, maybe the next up level in a way.
Maybe the
Uh,
retreats, maybe there's more
yeah,
retreats or more
yeah,
people attending your
yeah,
retreats, and
yeah,
speaking of that, if we have hairdressers that are listening, I mean, because that's something with that career that you can move abroad because you
yeah,
can still do that
yeah,
skill. Obviously, where to find the product, knowing
yeah,
product, there's gonna be a bit of a learning curve there and getting new
yeah,
clients, but it is something that everybody's got hair.
yeah, yeah,
Ladies always like to get their hair done.
yeah.
So if somebody was interested in your retreats, and connecting with you, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So I have my website. It's serene-flow.com. I have a podcast where I talk a lot about marketing for hairstylists, and I'm all about finding balance in life and listening to
Mhm.
your own intuition and creating a life and a business that actually works for you and not what you expect. Uh, but something that actually works for you, so it doesn't become draining. And I also hang out at Instagram. You can find me there at sereneflow underscore.
Perfect, and I will
Yeah.
make sure to put links to those in the show notes to make it
Yeah.
easy for everybody to connect with you, and I just wanna say thank you so much for your time today. I've
Yeah.
really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
our conversation, and I think it's been quite useful for all of the listeners.
Well, thank you for having me. It was super fun.